Let's have a look at the difference between the brand new Instax Mini 12 and the old and trusty Instax Mini 90 Neo Classic. I'll compare the feature set between these two cameras, and then I will look at differences in picture quality. So both of the cameras use the Instax Mini film, which is the smallest Instax film. Generally, you can buy it in these packages of 2x10. So there are two cassettes of 10 pictures each. This you can usually buy at like Target and Walmart, and it costs somewhere between $15 and $20. So the cost per print is about 75 cents to $1 per print. And this is the size of the final print. The Fujifilm Instax Mini 12 is a brand new camera. It was announced in March of 2023, and it retails for about $80. The Instax Mini 90 Neo Classic has been around for a long time. It was introduced in September of 2013, so it's almost 10 years old. Usually retails somewhere about $160 to $180. But for accurate prices, please check the links below. So I would say about double the price for the Instax Mini 90 compared to the Instax Mini 12. The Instax Mini 12 design is more like childlike, more playful. It comes in several pastel colors. I think there are 5 different colors available, and they're all like bright and poppy. So this is a blue one, they have a pink one, purple one, I think a white one, and a green one. The Instax Mini 90 Neo Classic is a more of like a serious looking camera. This is the black edition. It also comes in brown and also like a special edition red color. It looks like leather, but it's not leather, it's like a fake leather. But in general, it looks like a lot more sophisticated camera than the Instax Mini 12. The Instax Mini 12 is super simple camera. It's very different from the Instax Mini 90. There are essentially no controls on this camera. The only thing you can do is turn it on. So that's by twisting this ring. And then you can choose if you want to take a picture at a normal distance or a close-up. So for close-up, so normal distance would be anywhere from 2 feet to infinity, and close-up would be anywhere from 1 to 2 feet. So for close-up, you just twist it a little bit more, and it extends the lens even further. Other than that, there are no other controls. On the back of the camera, you have the door for the film. That's where you insert the film. If you want to see how that's done, check out my unboxing video. And then here you have a frame counter. So when you load the film pack, it will say S. Once you eject the dark slide, which is the protective sheet of film, it will go to 10, and then it'll count down all the way to 0. Then you have a viewfinder here, so that's how you frame the picture. And there's nothing else to do. The only thing you can do is take a picture with the shutter button. It uses AA batteries, which is good and bad. The good news about the AA batteries is you can buy them anywhere. The bad news is that batteries are often a problem with the Instax Mini camera. So like the Mini 11, Mini 8, Mini 9. If you don't use good quality batteries, sometimes you will get trouble. The camera will not take pictures. So I highly recommend using really high quality batteries, and most of the time people had the best luck with Duracells. So these are the original batteries that came with the camera because this camera is new. But once these become weak, I'll definitely replace them with Duracell batteries. The Instax Mini 90 is a very different camera. As you can see, it's a lot more sophisticated. It has a lot more controls. So to turn it on, you have this lever here, and it's motorized. So on the Instax Mini 12, it's all manual. So it's a manual motion, and manual it opens up and turns on and off like that. For the Instax Mini 90, it's all motorized. So that's good and bad. I'll explain why that's bad sometimes. So there's this lever right here, and if you pull on it, it extends the lens. So it extends the lens the same way. The lenses, as far as I can tell, are exactly the same. So they're a 60mm lens with the same aperture. So if you have your picture correctly focused and exposed, and that's a big if, then the pictures should come out very similar. The good news about being motorized, it's kind of cool. What's bad news about being motorized is that if you have this in the camera bag in the turn off position and you put it in the bag and accidentally somehow this turns on in the camera bag and you have like a bag in there, it can break the motors in the lens. So I actually prefer the manual opening of the lens on the Instax Mini 12. For these type of cameras, sometimes simplicity is better. On the back of the camera, it's very different. So this doesn't use two AA batteries. It uses a rechargeable battery. So there is this flap right here, and then there is a little rechargeable battery. So that's good and bad. It gives you less hassle than the AA's. This works really well. The problem is you need to keep track of your charger. And since I don't use the Instax that much, and this battery, when you fully charge it, it's probably good for like 5 to 10 packs, so anywhere from 50 to 100 pictures. That's probably how many pictures I take with this camera in a year. Sometimes I have to look for the charger where I put it. So there's an extra complexity, but if you do have the charger handy, then it's really easy to charge it. It charges in about an hour, and then it's good to go for another at least 5 packs. So once you turn on the camera, you have a display here. It shows you how charged the camera is, how many images are remaining. So here I have 10 images remaining, and you have a lot more options with this camera. So you can do a macro, so that's like a close-up, so similar to the Instax Mini 12. You can do lighten and darken exposure, so if it's too bright you can make it darker, and if it's too dark you can make it lighter. You can do a self-timer, so if you want to be in the picture you can set the camera on the tripod, so it has a tripod mount, so you can put it on the tripod and walk away. The Instax Mini 12 does not have a tripod mount, so there's no way to really attach it to anything. You can set it on the table just fine, but you can't put it on a tripod. And then this is a big one. You can control the flash, so you can turn the flash on and off. That's huge. As far as I can know, this is the only Instax Mini camera currently in production, made by Fujifilm, where you can control the flash. And you will see in the sample images that controlling the flash is a really big deal, because a lot of times the images from Instax cameras are too bright, like too overexposed. So sometimes it's nice to turn off the flash. And then you have the modes. The first one is party, so that's like an indoor setting where you want the flash to illuminate your people. And you also want the background to kind of still be illuminated. The second one is kids or sports, so if you have something fast moving. I generally never use this because Instax cameras are not great for taking pictures of sport things. Then you have landscape, that is very useful. So when you turn on landscape, the lens actually moves a little bit, so it focuses to a more distant object, and that is useful. You'll see in the sample images that results in sharper images. And the next one is double exposure. I'll show you some examples of that. So this one can do double exposures very easily. There's like a really complex trick on how to do it, but I generally wouldn't recommend it. The last one is bulb. So what bulb allows you to do is when you push the button, it opens up the lens, and it will stay open as long as you keep it pushing the lens. And I'll show you an example of what that looks like. So those are all the different modes. As you can see, there's a lot to play with compared to the Instax Mini 12, but sometimes the simplicity of the Instax Mini 12 is better. So at the end, I'll discuss the recommendations, which one I recommend for each particular user. But now let's look at the sample images. Overall, I took 6 different sample images with each camera. So for each of them, I stood at the same exact position, and I snapped the picture pretty shortly after each other from the same position, pointing exactly in the same place. So each of the viewfinders has like a circle in the middle, so I pointed the circle at the exact same spot for each picture. And I also took a picture with the iPhone, and I'll show you for each of the scenes what it looks like from an iPhone. So for the first test image, it was like a bright landscape. So I live in the Alps, so it was around midday, and kind of looking over the mountains, and in the foreground we have like an old building with white walls. Actually, for all the images for the Instax Mini 90, I chose the best setting that I deemed appropriate. So when I was taking landscapes, I selected the landscape mode, and if I was inside, I selected the party mode, and so forth and so on. And if I was taking close-ups, I selected the macro mode. For the Instax Mini 90 Neo Classic, I selected the landscape mode. As you can see, the Instax Mini 12 is overexposed, and the Instax Mini 90 is still probably a little bit overexposed, but it looks much better. And also the buildings are a little bit sharper because the Instax Mini 90 close the aperture a little bit more. And this is a general problem with Instax Mini cameras. They have really hard time handling really bright scenes. So like if you're taking pictures on the beach or in the snow, when the sun is really bright, the cameras can make the images dark enough, and a lot of times they're blown out. But the Instax Mini 90 definitely does much better in this case, and that's what you should expect. So if you're planning to take a lot of images of landscapes outside in the bright sun, I highly recommend the Instax Mini 90 because it will result in better pictures, and also the pictures will be sharper. So the next image is the portrait of my son. So this is a close-up portrait. The images look actually very similar. For the Mini 12, I selected the close-up function, and for the Mini 90, I selected the macro function. And I would say the exposure looks pretty much exactly the same. The framing is spot on for both of them because both of them have a viewfinder correction. That's an upgrade of the Mini 12 versus the Mini 11 if you're considering between those two cameras. I have a video that compares Mini 12 and Mini 11 separately, so check that out if you're interested. And also, if you're getting value out of this video, please consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot in growing my channel. So back to this close-up portrait, I would say those look exactly the same. The color balance is a little bit different between the two. The Mini 12 is a little bit cooler. The Mini 90 is a little bit greenish, a little bit warmer. It could be different age of the film, or maybe the flash is a slightly different color, but the lenses should be about the same. Between these two images, I would say it's a tie. They look about the same to me. The next image is what I would consider the most common scenario for Instax cameras, and that is you take your Instax camera to a party where you're snapping pictures inside, indoors, where there are some normal lamps turned on, but the light in general is pretty dark. It's like an evening party. So in this case, I told my son to sit on the couch, and in the back we have some lights, and also we have some string lights. And for the Mini 90, I set it to party mode. For the Mini 12, there was nothing to set, so it's just automatic exposure. And again, in this case, the images also look very, very similar. I would say it's a tie. My sun is very well illuminated in the foreground, and the background is nice and bright, so it looks pretty good. Both of the images have kind of like an 80s vibe, which I think is kind of in our mind because the pictures from a technical standpoint are kind of crappy compared to what you get with the iPhone, but it kind of brings you back in time. So if you were taking pictures in the 90s with your cameras, like a point and shoot or a Polaroid, it would kind of look like this. For the indoor setting, like a party setting, Mini 12 versus Mini 90, no difference. The next one is again a portrait. I told my son to sit outside on the couch. We have like an outdoor couch, and there's quite a bit of light coming from the side, quite a bit of natural light, so there's no flash necessary. So for the Mini 90, I set no flash. For the Mini 12, it fires flash every single time, no matter what. And in this case, I don't know why, but the Mini 12 is actually better exposed than the Mini 90. The Mini 90 is really overblown. I'm not sure why it's so bright. There was plenty of light, but it didn't have to make it so bright. The one good thing about the Mini 90 is that if I took this picture and really care about this picture, for the sake of the test, I didn't want to repeat any of these. I just wanted to see, like, if I take each camera and I take the shot, which one will give me a better result? But in the Mini 90's case, like if I got this shot in real life and I was like, oh, it's a little bit too bright, then you can go on the Mini 90 and set it to darken. So the next exposure can be darker, and that will probably fix this problem. But as this stands, the Mini 12 gave me a better result for the outdoor portrait because the Mini 90 is a little bit too overexposed. The next test shot is an outdoor landscape. So this was close to sunset, maybe about half an hour before sunset. In the back, we have some mountains which are in the sky, so it's really bright. Then in the middle, we have like a older building, and on the bottom, we have like a foreground that's kind of dark. I'll show you what it looks like from an iPhone. The iPhone is really good at kind of balancing the exposure, so everything will look great. To your naked eye, your brain kind of does the same thing as the iPhone. It balances out the exposure, so in the real life, it looked really nice. But the Instax cameras, both of them struggled. The Mini 90, I put in the landscape mode. It's definitely much, much better than the Mini 12. The Mini 12 is a little bit blurry because when it's dark, it selects larger aperture, so it's not as sharp. The Mini 90 in the building is much, much sharper. Also, the foreground, there's a lot more to see on the Mini 90 picture. So overall, definitely a win for the Mini 90. When the conditions get a little bit tougher, as far as light is concerned, the Mini 90 is definitely a much better camera than the Mini 12. But earlier I mentioned that the Instax Mini 90 also allows you to do kind of like fun things like double exposures. And here's an example of double exposure that I took of myself. So the way this works, you set the camera on the double exposure, you take one picture of yourself, so the flash usually fires, or you can turn on the flash as well, but the film does not come out. Then you take another picture, and then the film comes out. So what that does is that in the first one, I took exposure on the right, then I take exposure on the left, and then the picture ejects. So you can only do 2 exposures. You can't do as many as you want. So overall, which ones I would recommend? If you're looking for a camera for a kid, or somebody who doesn't really want to think about too much about photography, kind of opposite of like iPhone photography, get the Instax Mini 12. It's really fun to use, super easy. You just pop the film in and off you go and take pictures. If you're more into photography and you want to slow down, really think about it, the Instax Mini 90 is a really good choice. It's by far the most capable Fujifilm Instax Mini camera. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.